NOV and W293 CX 106.5 FM, Courier Communications, Milwaukee, but are the sole comments of the host and guest of this particular show.
It's like a diamond ring, it's a precious thing, and we never want to lose it. It's like a favorite song that we love to sing. Every time we hear the music, and we're in this love together. We got the kind that lasts forever.
I want to say good morning to everyone today. This is Karen Dotson from the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin. And you're joining us today at the table. We're always glad and welcome you to have great conversation today. And I have along with me my favorite doctor, Dr. Kevin Izzard, family practice physician.
Good morning.
Also co-investigator for the All of Us Research Program, president of Cream City, and on and on. Good morning. Good morning. We made it.
Good morning. We did. We're almost through 2024.
Almost
another
through.
rough year.
Huh? It was a year. I mean,
it was, yes.
But we made it, and I'm always grateful for that. And during this holiday season, we thought about something, and Dr. Izzard had a wonderful idea, and he mentioned that a lot of times we're challenged with some holiday blues, some depression. There's a lot of things going on with us that we kind of need to just reassess or think about, Doctor.
Yeah, it's true. And let me ask you a question. Do you know when the greatest rate of suicide is?
Is it around Christmas and
See,
New
yeah,
Year's?
I apologize because I walked you into that one. It's not Christmas, because I think empirically, people think that highest rate of suicide is around Christmas time. No, it's actually in the spring. It's actually April to August, and the reason they think it is because everybody is happy at that time. And around Christmas time too, but yeah, and so when people feel they're not happy like everybody else, they want to have everybody else has. That's when the suicide rate goes up. But the one day, the single day where you have the most suicide attempts, and there's not a whole lot of research on this, which is interesting, because there have been no real big studies, major studies that have looked at depression and suicide during the Christmas holiday, which you would think there would be a lot of them. But anyway, so the one day that's got the most apparently appears to have the most suicide attempts by ingestion, which would be like overdosing on pills, is New Year's Day.
Wow. They don't want to come into a new year, huh?
Yep.
I was looking at just trying to find some data on this, and the American Psychological Association had a survey in 2023, and they found that 89% of U.S. adults feel stressed during the holiday season.
Yeah.
And 41% reporting higher stress levels compared to other times of the year. And then, it kind of leads to, when we have stress, there's physical illness, depression, anxiety, substance misuse. And so those are the times that we see a lot of that.
Yeah. So even though the suicide rate is not the highest this time of year, it appears that, and again, there needs to be more study, more research on this. It appears, at least anecdotally, that the winter blues or the holiday blues is a lot higher at this time of year. So what may be the case is that people feel, now let's talk about the difference between having the blues and being depressed, because it is, in some degrees, it's a matter of degree. Everybody, has periods where they feel blue. You feel, just not the greatest, maybe not feeling the greatest about yourself, about other people, or about where you're heading. So everybody has those periods where they feel blue. Major depression, on the other hand, is when that becomes dysfunctional. So, it's affecting your ability to function. And so, when in my practice, we ask everybody these questions. There's 9 questions we have. It's called a PHQ-9. Um, it's a psychiatric health questionnaire, PHQ, and 9 questions. And so, in fact, one thing, if you listen out there, kind of ask yourself, these questions. Are you having problems with eating? Eating is a common one. So either people overeat or they undereat. So they don't have any appetite. So you can go either way. Some people, eat for comfort and those kind of things. So we see eating disorders. Sleeping is another thing that's affected by depression. So either you can't sleep or you oversleep. You sleep all the time. Don't have any motivation. The other thing is, do you enjoy things that do you no longer enjoy things that you normally enjoy? And that can be a sign of depression because they call it anhedonia, when you don't enjoy things that you normally enjoy. And that's probably part of the eating thing too, is that you just don't enjoy the taste of food. And then ability interference with concentration. You have a hard time, reading, reading a book or a newspaper or watching a television program. You just can't concentrate. That's another one. Energy level, and this is one that I think a lot of people suffer with. Yes, got no energy.
Seems that happens around the wintertime too, because we're cold and gets darker sooner, and so a lot of times it just makes you feel like I want to go to bed early, so I can get all the sunlight I can get. So
right.
That has a lot to do with it when I was reading about that as well.
Yeah. And then feeling down, depressed, or hopeless. And then the big one that that we really got to take seriously is thoughts about suicide or not necessarily. And even the question we ask is not necessarily about suicide as it is about morbid thoughts. Do you have thoughts about, I would be better off dead? Not necessarily that you would kill yourself, but this, what would things be like if I wasn't around, or would I be better off if I wasn't around? So those are morbid thoughts. But yeah, that is a trigger though. We need to ask more questions about, are you suicidal? Do you have a plan? If you did commit suicide, how would you do it?
Wow.
Because people will think about things and they'll say, they're suicidal, but they don't really have a plan. When someone says they got a plan for what they would do, I'm gonna, take my extra pills and and go home and go to sleep. That's a plan. You gotta take it more seriously.
So then you realize that this person's really thinking about it. Because they're kind of going out on the limb. I did. A lot of times they always say don't Google, but I did Google to see. What do they say about holiday blues? And one thing that they mention is that temporary feelings of sadness, anxiety, or depression that can occur during the holiday season. And some of those things they mention as far as like societal expectations. Like, we all expect and that we're supposed to be a certain way. We're supposed to be happy during this time. We're supposed to be giving. We're supposed to be socializing. But sometimes we don't always feel like that. And then also missing loved ones. I know that's always a thought every year. When it gets close to this time, I think about my parents. I mean, I think about them all the time, but now I think about, the kind of fun and what we used to do, and it changes.
And so sometimes you got to do is you got to, establish, and then maybe we'll talk about this later, but talk about establishing new traditions.
Yes.
Maybe that person was a person who got the whole family together. That person was a person who made dinner or did the decorations, and so you got to find, new traditions after that person's gone. But usually that first holiday after someone passes is tough.
It is really. And one thing that I found is that what has helped our family during that time is that it seems like the people that we were together with during that passing, we always have a tendency to try to figure out a way of getting together with them during that holiday season. I know my relatives in Philadelphia, when her mom died, they all came then to Milwaukee and we celebrated for holiday. And then last year, my nephews and my niece, my brother passed, and so we ended up going to California to celebrate. So it's kind of bringing us more together. And how do we use that?
Right.
Even though that person is gone, how then can we use it to try to enjoy each other in a more joyous time?
Right. And this is the time where we need to come together. And if you know of someone who, first of all, has maybe even has a history of depression, you need to be even more aware of it. But check in on people. Check in on people you see going through a tough time, or someone who you might anticipate going through a rough time this time of year. Like maybe every Christmas time, every holiday season, they become depressed. So try to get them engaged and socially. Going to parties. Coming together with family, because once people isolate themselves, it gets worse.
And that's true. And I always think about people when we're going through this time, and I always kind of turn it around a little bit, and I tell myself, thank God for the memories, because if we didn't have those good memories of individuals, what then would we do? Because then at least we have something to hold on to.
Yeah.
So, as people are calling today, we welcome that you call in to give your conversation about this time of year. 414-444-5250 or 414-444-5253. And we have a caller on the line this morning. Good morning, caller.
Good morning,
and thank
caller.
you for joining us at the table this morning.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rick calling you long distance from Germany.
From Germany. Avita said.
I just want to say that in 2003, I was poisoned by members of the CIA with intestinal parasites. And in the last 12 years, I have wrestled with suicide. But I have a beautiful German family. I have beautiful members of my American family. And I thank God for every day, every hour above ground. I just wanted to add that to your show this morning.
Yes. Well, I'm glad that you're okay, and I hope that your intestines recovered from all of that. So what time is it in Germany?
It's about 2:12.
2:12 in the afternoon or at night?
2:12 in the afternoon.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
sir.
Okay. Yeah. So
a decent hour for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot decent than what it is for us this morning, right?
Yeah. So I want to encourage you, stay, stay involved, stay encouraged, stay, engaged with, with your family and people, because, as you said, it's that attitude makes a huge difference, in how you deal with depression.
And family can be a support.
Yes.
And sometimes family can be a hurt. But I also want to say, even though the CIA has its tentacles in many aspects of American life, psychology and psychiatry in the Black community is growing, and it is a necessary thing.
It is.
Psychologists don't know everything, but they know a little bit about something or another. And if they don't know, they can recommend who to go to get the answer. I'm done, folks.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
You have a blessed day.
Yeah, a good holiday too as well.
Yes.
Rick, one thing that he mentioned a couple things, Doc. He mentioned about family, and so really that's some of the tips of managing some of the holiday blues is reaching out for support.
Yeah.
Knowing who to reach out for support. Right. And the other is plan something ahead, have something to look forward to after the holiday can also help. And I was thinking about that. I was like, knowing that like a lot of times my birthday is in January. So I'm always like, what am I going to do in January? To try to make it seem a little bit more exciting. So planning ahead something for yourself.
There is something called postpartum or post-holiday blues too. And what happens is, people get all excited about the holidays. It happens after like a wedding or any kind of major event where you're really looking forward to it and you're planning everything around it, and it happens. And then the next day is like, okay, what am I going to do now?
Right.
So, all this stuff for Christmas, everything is unwrapped. Okay, now.
Yeah.
And, Yeah. So now it's January.
Right. So now you got to deal with that.
They got to pay the bills.
But I always start thinking about in January, spring is coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I guess, it's how we always look at things and how can we make it a little bit better as we kind of go through this process.
But you know what? So, like I said, let's say that you are having a crisis. Hopefully people are aware, there's they got a hotline that you can call, to either, talk to a therapist or to get some help. You know how they have 911? Well, this is 988. Okay, so you can dial 988 from any phone, and it'll take you to that psych crisis hotline. I didn't realize you can go online too. You can go to, um, I think it's 988.gov, and
wow, okay.
and you can because a lot of the young people, they don't talk on the phone, so they can text somebody.
Yeah, a lot of times people, and then sometimes people don't want you to know who they are. So they,
right, anonymously, right?
Yeah, so that's always another thing. They don't want you to track them or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's good to know.
Right. So yeah, if you got a loved one, and again, and I was and Rick kind of alluded to this in the Black community. There's a stigma. Everybody's got a stigma with mental health, but particularly in our community, we got a stigma around mental health. We think it may be weak, to admit that you got a problem and that you ask about how you do. Well, I'm blessed, but in reality, they're falling apart inside. But on the outside, we're gonna put that facade up, like we're blessed. We don't got a problem. Yeah, we're all blessed, but that doesn't mean we're doing well.
Right.
And so I try not to give those. You asked me this morning, how you doing?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
I mean, it didn't sound too good. What was that all about?
Because a lot of times we just kind of get these pat answers like, "Oh, I'm doing great," and oftentimes maybe that's the case. But when people are having problems, we need to be willing to admit that. We are really bad about that. Guys and church folks, I think we're the worst ones. Because church folks, think it's if you're faithful, then you're gonna never be depressed.
Yeah, that's true. You're supposed to always think, okay, God got it, right?
Yeah, I mean, even Elijah, the great prophet, became depressed after he was battling Jezebel, and after he destroyed her army, he ran and went out somewhere and laid under a plant and got depressed. And God said, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah.
But yeah, people get depressed.
Well, I mean, it's a human side, and I think that we have to really realize that no matter who we are, we're going to have some good days and we're going to have some bad days.
Right. And that's okay that they have those bad days, and that's why you need people around, because hopefully you're not having a bad day when I'm having a bad day. And so
yeah, we both don't want to jump off the cliff together. One person got to pull us back, right?
Yeah.
So, and sometimes I have to talk to myself. I mean, talk myself out of it. Or,
right.
You got to tell yourself, remind yourself, remind yourself as far as how things are.
Right.
As we kind of look at this holiday season, and I start thinking about, all the challenges that we as Black people have gone through. And I'm thinking about all those things that we have overcame. We are survivors of so many different things. I think, I was listening recently to a show, and, out of all the different cultures, we are the only one that have really gone through some of the trials and tribulations historically compared to any other culture. And we are still here and thriving. And that's something that we as people need to be really proud of.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we got a call, but I think we'll come back to him.
We're getting ready.
The break.
Oh, we have a caller. Great. Yeah. So this is Karen Dotson from the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin. And I have Dr. Kevin Izzard, who is a family practice physician. We're at the table this morning. We welcome you to call in at 414-444-5253 or 414-444-5250. We'll be back and we'll see you on the other side.
The holidays and holiday trips and holiday toys holiday bonding. And it all comes together in a Chevrolet.
Find your red tag. Get 1.9% financing on all 2024 Silverado 1500 pickups. Plus, get $3,750 total value on this Silverado when you trade in an eligible vehicle. Chevrolet, together.
The passing of a loved one is emotional enough without adding the stress of funeral arrangements. By pre-planning, you receive the desires of your heart while taking away the burden from your family. It also saves you money, providing the dignity and respect your memory deserves. And there are times when life ends unexpectedly. Please know that the New Pitts Mortuary is here to lend a helping, caring hand anytime, day or night. We are the New Pitts.
It's like a diamond ring, it's a precious thing, and we never want to lose it. It's like a favorite song that we love to sing.
This is Karen Dotson from the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin. And I have along with me Dr. Kevin Izzard. Good morning. Good morning.
We are in this love together.
That's right. And this is the time of season where we're supposed to have all the love for the world,
the
right?
Truth. Man, I was listening to, I was watching YouTube and this thing with what's his face, comedian Dave Chappelle, and he was joking about when he was a kid and he used to watch the Care Bears, and the Care Bears when they came across something, they would get more determined and they would link hands together. And he said, and love would shoot out of their hearts.
All right.
And so we need to start loving one another. Especially this time. The country seems to be more divided than ever. And especially after this whole election thing, and people are really angry. A lot of people still angry and disappointed. And other people, they won and they're still angry. So, I don't know how you explain that, but
right.
Yeah, we gotta start loving one another and start figuring out a way to, because if anybody who's married know that you can't have it your way 100% of the time.
You say anybody that's married?
Yeah, you know that. You've been married more than 5 years, even more than 5 months. You know that you got to compromise.
It's got to be a compromise, definitely. You
Yeah.
got to figure it out. You got to get to the middle on that line, right?
That's right. And maybe neither one will be happy. No one
Yeah.
will be 100% happy.
But you got to compromise and know what to do. We have another caller on the line this morning. Good morning, caller, and thank you for joining us at the table this morning.
Good morning.
There we go. All right. Good morning.
Is this our secondary host here, Mr. Tyrone W?
Yes, indeed. Yes, sir. Yes, Dr. Kevin Izzard, Dr. Tamara Dotson. Yes, and yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yes. Good morning, Mr. Rideout, Mr. Carvey. Man, again, Merry Christmas, everyone. And I love hearing from Rick. I love that brother, man. A wealth of wisdom and information.
Yes.
Information and knowledge and facts. And, God bless him and his family. And, Merry Christmas, Rick. Get strong. Be safe, man. I love hearing from you. Love to meet you one day. But, I've heard him on Sharpton. I've heard him on Michelle Show. So he's very well versed. And, he calls in. So best wishes for the new year, Rick. Always good hearing from him.
Yeah.
But very quickly, and I'm sipping on papaya right now. It's actually spelled Papaya. Papaya. Excuse me. The juice is good. All my 66 years, I've never had the fruit though. I would love to try the fruit to see if it's just as sweet as the juice. So sometimes, that may be different because I know just right with pomegranate. I love pomegranate, but it seems like I love the fruit more than I love the juice, though. The juice, it seems like they've kind of tinkered with it and played with it too much to where it kind of has a bit of an off taste. But I love the fruit, though.
Yeah.
I love the fruit. It's almost like little seedlings in there. But I love the papaya, or excuse me, the pomegranate fruit. But I haven't tried papaya yet. I love the papaya juice, but I haven't had the fruit yet.
Yeah. See, I was thinking about Gilligan's Island. I remember Gilligan's Island had papaya juice.
Yeah, me too. Okay, well, maybe. Right. But I tell you, and it's just like with pineapples, I can do both pineapple, fresh and out of the can, and the juice as well. But I think I prefer I prefer it fresh and not so much out of the can, but the juice is decent though too. Yeah.
There's a thing in there though, Tyrone. I think we need to be willing to try different things.
Oh, absolutely.
So we get set into our apples and oranges and bananas.
Right.
And there's a whole lot of other fruit out there that most of us never tried it. I think it's dragon fruit. I don't know what is dragon fruit. Looks dangerous to me, but I never tried it.
Right.
I'll tell you, the first time I tried, my daughter's mother, she's now, God bless her, Jeanette. The first time I tried both mango and kiwi was through her, and I've loved it ever since. I mean, and mango's got this great big seed in the middle. I mean, you wouldn't think, but it's got one seed, and that's it. It's as long as the fruit. It's shaped like a football.
Yeah.
But it's got that great big seed in the middle, and that's the only one. But it's great. I love it. I love mango and the kiwi. But I guess what I want to get at real quickly there, I want to stick all the other show. Because I get shovel this stuff here.
Oh yeah.
But last week I guess I had mentioned my pies. There a couple weeks ago, and the thing about my pies is, the thing is, and she was right, and I love her for saying that and sharing that with me. But like with the blueberry, the cherry, even with the apple, see that's just it. They make their own sugar, just like when you look at the banana turning brown. That's that sugar coming to surface.
Yeah.
See. And a lot of people say, well, you can still eat it if it's not to the point to where it's just, real soggy and bad there, but it's the sugar coming to the surface. So your fruits will generate a natural sugar.
Yeah.
And see, that's what I guess I miss telling her about my pies. I mean, and I do exercise, but I do more pie than I do cake. Yeah. So, but I mean, especially maybe, this time of year, like I said, sweet potato. I can deal with pumpkin, but my mom's sweet potato, you can't beat those, man.
Yeah.
You can't beat those. But yeah, all of those blueberries, cherry, apple, those pies. Yeah, man, I can make some of that stuff disappear.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Most of those fruit have fructose in there, and it's a natural sweetener. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, so that's what I'm doing. I'm sipping on some papaya, so I'm listening to you for a while, and then I'll get ready to get out here and shovel this stuff in about an hour and a half here, and then I'm ready for a big football weekend for everybody that's playing. I guess we've got the Monday night spotlight this week, but yep.
Yeah. So you're gonna go from the tropical fruit out to the snow.
Oh yeah, well that
I guess you're trying to make yourself feel a little better this morning.
I'm glad he said that, because occasionally what I would do is I would have watermelon or honeydew refrigerated until but you can't pretty much get them now. But I would have that refrigerated pretty much up until about this time here, and then once they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah.
But stuff like that. Yeah. But so Merry Christmas again. I love you. Thank you. And best wishes for the new year.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And we welcome callers to call in and sit at the table today. We're really talking about the holiday blues and what we can do to avoid some of those things. And one thing that was suggested is to stick to normal routines as much as possible. Get enough sleep. Take time for yourself.
Sleep is huge. Sleep is huge.
Yeah.
If you find that you're going about your business, and then you have like the weekends, and you find that in the weekends you sleep 10 hours, you can't sleep enough. That probably means you're not getting enough sleep during the week, because your body is trying to make up for that sleep deprivation. And we know that when you sleep, that's the time when your body heals itself. That's when, those repairs are being done. And if you're not giving yourself enough time, then it affects your ability to heal and ability to repair itself. Also, your brain. We used to think that your brain shuts down at sleep. Your brain actually is active. Your brain continues to do things, but also it works things out. That's why people have these weird dreams, because they repress things during the day, and at night your brain starts to work on it.
Oh, wow.
And so you're solving problems even though you're asleep. But that's why your brain has to. It's incredible. Your brain actually is able to shut your body down. And so in your dream you're running, but your body is supposed to be paralyzed. And people get this sleep paralysis sometimes. Where they decide to wake up, so their awareness is back, but their body is still paralyzed.
I think we have a question here.
Well, actually, I just wanted to
piggyback
off of that. My name is Jermaine Rideout. I'm the producer here at WNOV.
All right.
But speaking off of that, I used to have sleep apnea real bad, and I used to be able to be sleep like I was sleeping.
Yeah.
But my body was still active, so I can play a full song on the piano, sleep. So I was on tour, and I fell asleep in the lobby. So I'm snoring, but my body, I was playing a full song on the piano. So when they woke me up, they was like, "Man, you was playing the piano." I didn't believe them until I had my sleep study. When I had my sleep study, they showed me on paper to where my brain was active, and where I was woke, but I was. I thought I was asleep.
It's like sleepwalking, huh?
Yeah. Exactly what it is. Yeah. So people, that can be dangerous too. People, they get up and they get in the car and driving places, and then be careful with these medications too. Anybody who's on like Ambien, Zolpidem, a bit of generic name, those things can kind of give you. There was a big lawsuit that happened with Ambien where somebody had sued them because this lady was gaining all this weight when she's on the medication, and they said, well, it shouldn't cause weight gain. Well, they found out, and I'm not sure how much honest she was about this, but she was actually at night getting up and eating a bunch of stuff.
Really?
And that's how she gained all this weight. Yeah.
Oh my God.
You think she would have saw the crumbs on her chest when she woke up in the morning, but people will you get this the sleep app or sleep what the word I'm trying to think of amnesia, where they don't remember the next day what they did.
The other thing I was thinking about, Doc, is that a lot of times when we're going through this mode of depression or having some anxiety, it's like, I think I need a drink. Some people are saying like, I think I need a drink. What does that really do to a person? A lot of times we think, oh, this is going to numb the situation, but does it really do that?
Right. Well, you know what? But first, since we're talking about sleep, why don't we talk about this? So, sometimes people will drink to help them sleep, because alcohol is a depressant.
Calms them down, right?
However, what happens, and people don't realize this, is that your brain, when you sleep, as Jermaine was saying, your brain is still active at night, and so you go through these different phases in your sleep, where you go into this really deep sleep, these we call REM sleep. That's when you're down deep, and you see your eyes are still moving because that's your brain's working. Okay. But when you drink alcohol, you interfere with your body's ability to get into REM sleep. So even though you might be laying down, you might be out, you're not in good REM sleep. So alcohol will interfere with your ability to get good quality REM sleep. So people who are drinking alcohol at night to help them sleep, it's not a good idea.
So what would be a good idea for people to be able to get that assistance with sleeping? Because you mentioned some of the medications, it freaks people out a little bit.
Yeah.
Alcohol is not good. So what do you suggest?
Well, I mean, probably one of the safest ones would be melatonin, and melatonin really came to popularity because pilots would use it. Pilots can't use anything that's going to be sedating or that's going to impair their ability to function. So, pilots travel a lot and they have jet lag. And so they started using this dietary supplement, because that's technically what it is, melatonin. It was generally found to be safe. So that's the places, maybe one of the places you can start with is, take melatonin, 15 milligrams at bedtime, see if that helps with sleep. But the first thing you need to do really is assess what they call your sleep hygiene. So do you have a quiet, dark room? You want a room that's going to be dedicated to sleeping. So you don't want to have your gaming console in there. You don't want to have your computer in your room. You want to have that really just for for sleep. So your body, when you go in there, your brain. Devo's laughing over there.
What's going on? What's going on over there, Devo?
I'm laughing because y'all should have saw Jermaine's face when he said you don't want to have your gaming console.
Because my gaming console is in my room. It's in my room.
He turned and looked at you like, man, like you had swore at him.
Yeah.
Like, is it?
Hey, soon as you said it, I said, "Oh yeah, that's probably why I'm not getting enough sleep."
I've had parents come in and tell me, "Oh, my son won't sleep. He won't go to sleep." And then you ask about it. They got a TV in their room, and they're getting up at 12 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning, watching TV.
I'm kind of guilty of that.
You know what? I know I am.
I'm guilty of that.
I'm very guilty of it. Like some nights I really can't sleep unless I have my TV on.
Me too. I feel the same way. And that's bad.
Just
don't look at me like that, Doc. You're looking at me like, no, you
don't. Because that's a habit. I don't think
it is a habit, right?
Yeah,
Debo, you're right. It's a habit. And what you can do is, to kind of wean yourself off of it. You can. A lot of TVs now have timers, so you can set it for it to go off in an hour. Because what happens if you're asleep, you're getting a good sleep, and now the TV program changes, and people are laughing, or there's a gunshot or something like that, and then you wake up, and now you're up, and then you can't go back to sleep.
Right.
So yeah, I would find.
So when you spoke to REM sleep,
your wife about the TV too.
Yeah, because she likes that TV on.
That's why he's looking at me like, here's another one.
Dr. Izzard, when you spoke to REM sleep, and that being the quality sleep. What happens or what's happening when you're asleep, but yet you hear certain things on that television that creep into your dreams? Is that a part of REM sleep, or is the lack thereof?
Well, it's I mean, you're in REM sleep, and with REM, like I said, your brain is still active. So yeah, you're hearing things, and because I noticed that, like I said, my wife likes to sleep with the TV on, and when she's got the news on, I know I start having some crazy dreams.
Yeah, because you hear it.
Yeah, because for me, laying there asleep, and I have my TV on, like they can play certain commercials, like food commercials, like a pizza or something, and I will wake up desiring.
Wow, the
pizza!
Oh my goodness!
Subliminal messages.
Yeah, subliminal messages.
Yeah.
So now it all makes sense. Okay.
So you gonna make some changes?
I think I still want that pizza.
I think
you still want that gaming console in the room.
I'm gonna have to try to wean myself.
Man, I'm gonna tell the truth.
Have you told your wife to wean herself off? Did it work?
It ain't gonna work. We've been married 30 years.
It's over.
Hey, Doc, you got to pick your fights.
That's right. Yeah. At least she'll turn off when I come to bed.
I think you guys are ganging up. I got 3 guys in the room with me today.
Hey, I'm on your team.
You on my team? Okay, that's right.
I sleep with the TV on.
Okay,
yeah. So that's the one thing. Put your gaming console, your computer in another room, ideally. Tablets and phones. In fact, I know people who don't take their phone in the bedroom. They leave it leave it in the hallway. Because that thing. You get a text message.
I feel like I don't have everything I need.
Right? Where is that phone?
Yeah,
right?
Mm-hmm.
So all electronics is in the room with you.
It's right next to me.
Yep.
Hey, Doc, you probably got a keyboard in there too, in case you get an idea.
I do.
The song come to him, he jump right up and play it.
It's funny that you say that, man, because that's how I wrote numerous songs.
I woke up. Oh yeah, I bet they would wake up.
And played and
learning something new about you. That's great.
I mean, that's how my brain works.
Yeah,
and it's been like that for years.
Yeah. Yeah, you wonder why I can't turn it off.
Yeah. I've been trying to figure it out. I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you don't want to turn it off, though, if you get some of the positivity of a new song. I mean,
right. You want to have, like I said, turn off the tab. Oh, big thing also is a light. If you do have to look at your phone or your tablet, have it in dark mode, because the light from tablets and phones it's got blue. The blue light actually mimics sunlight, so it's more likely to wake you up. Also, you want to have a regular routine as far as just your sleep. So you want to try to go to bed at the same time and get up at the same time. Now, it's not a big issue for people who don't have sleep issues, but people who are really struggling with insomnia, you want your body to know, okay, 10 o'clock is my bedtime. I'm going to start getting tired around 10 o'clock because my body knows it's time to go to bed. And then I'm going to get up at 5, whatever time you get up, and that's your regular routine. So even on the weekends, even when you don't have to be up for work, until you get your body into that regular routine, if you're doing it right, then you find that you don't have to set the alarm. Your body just gets up.
Yeah. Now, question, Doc, I want to ask you this, because to what I do now, I have a Bluetooth speaker in my room, and what I do, I either play like rain sounds or like highway sounds or ocean sounds, and that helps me to actually get into that realm of sleep. Right. It's like my brain shuts down. So it's like when I'm hearing this, I don't know what it is, but I guess it takes me to a familiar place, I guess. So it's like when I'm hearing the rainstorm and things like that, it calms me, and then I'm out.
And that's good. And that's different than listening to a program, because your body is not listening and processing words and thoughts. It's more of a mood that you're setting. Yeah. And so and some people who have tinnitus, if you have ringing in your ears, and it gets, because when it's quiet, it gets louder.
Yeah.
Subjectively loud. I think it's louder. So sometimes white noise will help with that too.
Okay.
But those
you call it white noise, huh?
Yeah, white noise. Just say that.
Yeah.
Those are designed to be calming and soothing,
okay.
aren't they, Doctor?
Yeah.
That's their intent. Some of those different softwares and apps have that's what their claim to fame is that you can relax with this.
Yeah. Now, some sounds, some nights, man, I might pull up and play like highway sounds, like somebody riding on the highway, and it's like, for me, since I was a kid, just being in the car, rolling down the window and listening to the ride on the freeway, it puts me to sleep.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So you're a city kid.
Oh man, yes sir, Doc. I'm a city guy.
Man, I went to the Dominican Republic a few years ago, and never been there before. Man, I tell you one thing I'll never forget is these roosters. Literally at 4 a.m. before the sun comes up, they would, and it would go on and on.
You did that pretty good, Doc. Did you?
Yeah.
That shows how annoying it was.
It's seared into my memory.
You gotta get him to come in and do some sound effects.
Hey man, put him right up on here.
But yeah, that rooster would get up, and so. I guess people, if you grew up in the country, you probably, because, especially about city lights and stuff, you know, street lights. You know, when it gets dark, especially in the country, it gets black. You know, so people just went to bed, you know, when it got dark, and they got up when the sun came up.
You know, I just wanted to welcome everybody. This is Karen Dotson from the All of Us Research Program with Dr. Kevin Izzard. He is a family practice physician. And we are at the table today. We want to welcome people to call in just to kind of give us some idea of what you might have been challenged with or what suggestions you might have that help you. You can call us at 414-444-5250. And you can also call us at 414 5253.
Yep.
I had to make sure I got that right. Thank you, doctor.
I didn't remember the number, but I heard you say it enough that it's
See, he has one of those photographic memories.
No, I don't. No,
he can just remember, and I still need to look at the paper sometime.
Yeah. But you know what? Let's talk about real quick about loneliness. Because again, this is another time of
major.
Yeah, where a lot of people are lonely. You know, if you don't have family, or your family's passed on, or for whatever reason, there's an epidemic of loneliness, and they're thinking that it started maybe around 2010, and it was exacerbated by COVID because a lot of us were locked in. You working from home. Maybe you didn't see too many people because you weren't going out to school, or you weren't going into the office, or you were isolated because of COVID, and so it made it worse. But yeah, there's an epidemic. In fact, what they was some of the data suggests is that people, 50% of people of Americans, adult males or adult, well, actually, I think it was adult males, said that they actually had problems with loneliness. And again, men, women come together. They're used to doing that. They get angry with they get angry about their friend's man. How he's treating them, and they feel that anger, and they cry together, and they get it out. Men, we don't do that kind of stuff. They say that when men come together, it's usually shoulder to shoulder, not face to face. Because we're shoulder to shoulder. I mean, we're usually looking at someone, watching TV, watching a game or something like that. But we don't look each other eye to eye. And so they say that there was a study that found that you had a 29% higher risk of heart disease and a 32% higher risk of stroke for people who felt lonely compared to people who don't. So, and this is the kicker, that people who are lonely, it puts as much strain on the heart as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So half pack of cigarette. It's like smoking.
Wow. Never thought about that.
Yeah. And so another interesting thing too is that women, people that are widowed, women do better once they're widowed. They live longer. Men, they do worse when they become widowers. So yeah, a lot of guys, we don't have relationships.
Wow. When you start thinking about loneliness, and I know I have a friend that really has taken it hard with her parents passing, and she wants to be alone a lot, but you try to get them out. They don't want to go out.
Right.
So you kind of like forced to go into their space. But, those are some of the challenges that I have noticed too, that some people, it's hard for you to stop them from wanting them to be alone.
People get used to being alone too, especially they get set in their ways. They want to do things the way they want to do it. And, they have the older you get, the harder it is to, we're talking about eating new fruit. You're stuck on what you eat, or you're stuck on what you do, your routine. And you don't want to, if you're inflexible, you don't want to change that routine. But there's a lot that shows that, older people who are, socially engaged, that keeps your brain moving, the less of incidence of developing dementia, Alzheimer's, because, your brain is making new connections and processing things. And even doing those, those mental games, doing Sudoku or other things will help keep your brain sharp.
So I've always heard that too. And I guess that's one reason why I feel like why retire, just keep working, because it keeps your brain working. And a lot of times people have a tendency to, when they retire all the way. And sometimes that's not good. Is that correct, Doc?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because we all know people that, they retire and they get old.
Well, it seems like some people seem like after they retire in a couple of years, they're no longer with us, and that always seems to amaze me how that happens with people. We're getting ready for a break, and this is Karen Dotson from the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin. I have Dr. Kevin Izzard, who is also a family practice physician, with us, and we're really talking about depression, about the holiday blues, what you might want to do to really help you along with others as you're challenged during this time, and how we're going to also we're going to have Dr. Kevin Izzard is going to be joining us still, but also Dr. Jeff Whittle will be joining us to talk more about research and how it's been looked at with the All of Us Research Program and some of the things that he's been doing with research as well. And we welcome you to call in. Please feel free to call us at 414-444-5253, 414-444-5250. We'll be back on the other side. Medical College of Wisconsin, along with Dr. Kevin Izzard. Just wanted to welcome you back. We've been talking about holiday blues and some of the challenges that we go through in that this holiday season. And Doc, you kind of mentioned a couple things. And for our listeners that are just joining us, can you kind of just go over a couple things that we talked about earlier?
Yeah. So for people who are just joining on, we talked about this time of year. People are prone to developing the holiday blues, and the difference between just the blues and major depression is it's kind of a matter of degree. Everyone will have the blues now and then. You kind of feel bad about your situation or yourself, or you're having a bad day. But when you find that it's interfering with your ability to sleep, either you're sleeping too much or you're not sleeping enough, so you have insomnia. If it's interfering with your eating, so you're either eating too much or you don't have an appetite at all. If you're notice that you have problem with concentration, you got problems with feeling down, depressed, or hopeless. You feel like you don't enjoy things you normally enjoy. You know, those are signs that you might have a major depression and you might need counseling or medication to deal with it. But we want to encourage people to be engaged during the holidays because a lot of people have experiencing loneliness during this time of year. They may be suffering with the anniversary of someone who died, or this might be the first holiday they had where someone they're missing their mom, and she was the one that brought everybody together, or they whatever's going on this time of year tends to be a lot of people will have the holiday blues. And so we want you to encourage you to be engaged with people, socially engaged, come together, meet with people, do those things because you don't want to isolate yourself.
The other thing that we were looking at too is that the types of research that really identifies how we can handle some of the holiday blues. And a lot of times we need to just reach out for support. Talk to someone that you feel that can really understand you. And sometimes it's good to be around similar people with some of the same types of issues. Also
support group. Yeah, so support groups are about. You want to come together with other people. A lot of people, especially if you're grieving like a recent death. My father-in-law died a couple years ago, and so we went through a grief family support group with my mother-in-law. She really liked it. It was at a church. All you had to do was like $13 for the workbook, but it didn't cost anything. And there's other families who are going through it. And a lot of people don't realize this, but if you have Medicare or you got military benefits, they will pay for you to do grief counseling after a loved one passes. So you don't have to pay for it.
Also, Dr. Izzard, you mentioned a number that people can call to get some counseling, some help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if there's a number you can just like they have 911, well, there's a 3-digit number that's a national hotline, and that's 988. And so if you're going through a crisis, you can call that, or you can go to 988.gov, and you can actually go online and you can communicate with someone through by texting them or doing a message them. So if you're someone who doesn't like talking, maybe, or you want to be more anonymous, you can also do it that way. But definitely get help. In Milwaukee, you got the Site Crisis Center. It's no longer out at the county grounds now. It's on. It's actually right down the street on 12th, down the street from Sinai, from Mount Sinai Hospital. That's another area where you can go for someone who's really having a crisis, and they will assess them there, and they could even keep them overnight if they need to observe them. But you can have a mental health professional who will evaluate them to make sure that they're safe. And so you don't want anybody doing anything for a permanent solution to a temporary problem. The other thing too that gets kind of frustrating because a lot of young people, they're going through a breakup and they kind of do this, what they call suicidal gesture. Meaning they're not really serious about committing suicide, but they're kind of asking for, a kind of a scream for help. And so they might take pills. Do not take Tylenol, because people think, oh, Tylenol, it's not going to be that bad. Tylenol will ruin your liver. So Tylenol overdoses can be really bad. Any medication overdose can be bad, but don't pick Tylenol if you're going to pick a pill, to do a suicidal gesture. Other thing interesting too is that women tend, when they attempt suicide, women tend to do pills. Men tend to be more with firearms, and there are far more suicides among men than there are women. Interestingly enough, the biggest age group of suicide are men over 75.
Wow.
It's interesting enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what it really tells me is that a lot of times people have a tendency to keep things in instead of talking about it. And so that is something that we should really consider and want to do, is to talk about it, and find someone that you can feel comfortable doing. Dr. Izzard,
Right.
we also have Dr. Whittle joining us. Dr. Whittle is an internal medicine physician. He is currently practicing at the Veterans Affairs. He's also professor at the Medical College of Wisconsin and co-investigator for the All of Us research program. Good morning, Dr. Whittle. Thank you for joining us at the table.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Morning, Jeff.
Hey, Kevin. How you doing?
Good. I always crack up when I hear, physicians talking with each other, when Dr. Izzard and Dr. Whittle get together. They seem like, okay, we have this common bond, we can communicate well. So it's always a joy. Dr. Whittle, we want to thank you for joining us today. And we know that you have been involved with the All of Us research program in this area from the very beginning and up until now. And so there's been a lot that has happened within this time with the program as it relates to research. And can you just kind of give us an idea of your knowledge about some of the projects and programs and research projects that are going on with the All of Us research program, and especially some of those that possibly could be related to mental health?
So what I would say is that the All of Us research program, because it does involve a very diverse population, allows you to look at things that are sometimes not really studied in ethnic minority communities, people from rural backgrounds, people who are less well off, because those folks traditionally have not been able to participate in research projects, and or have not wanted to because of concerns about research, because of past abuses of people. And so it's exciting to see research that's coming out that's very broadly representative. And a lot of the things that we find are similar to what was seen with other studies, but now is more clearly applicable to the whole population. And so I think Dr. Izzard was pointing out some of the benefits of social support and having people who are interested in your well-being be studied as far as or be able to support people who have depression or have thoughts around suicide. Those are really important insights, and it reminds me of a story we were talking, I think, on the phone the other day with Kevin and yourself, that one of the folks who works in my clinic, one of the LPNs, so a guy who really Navy veteran who has been there for a long time and comes with such a positive attitude every day. And I have noticed, because I haven't worked with them my whole time I was at the VA, that patients are more inclined to take care of themselves because they have had that positive interaction and actually comment frequently on how important that is. So really, although I'm the guy who prescribes the pills, I suspect that my colleague Kevin is actually, and this is Kevin, my LPN, who works with me, probably does more for patients' health than I do. So it's really, and you as a member of the community who has contact with people day to day, not just once every 6 months when they go to the doctor, have a lot to offer. And the research around social support and depression are very supportive of that. And a lot of that research is now coming from the All of Us research program. All of Us is also ramping up their efforts to look at everyday activities, like whether or not people are being screened for appropriate diseases at the rates that they should be. Again, past research has helped us understand that people probably would who would benefit from getting mammograms or colon cancer tests or lung cancer tests tend not to get them because they don't have any symptoms. We're looking for these diseases before they become symptomatic. Everybody's really busy, and so some of those preventive things get put to the side. And people that look at the All of Us data see that that's really true across racial and ethnic groups, across parts of the rural versus urban, and across the income spectrum. So it's not just people of one group that fail in that area. And then I guess the other thing that I want to point out is the VA, or not the VA, the help that the All of Us research programs advisory group here in Milwaukee has provided to the research community here in Milwaukee to identify projects that are important to them. Kevin, did I hear you say something?
No, I think you know what you're saying is spot on.
And go ahead.
Okay, a lot of people, especially during COVID, because some people were being surveyed for surveillance for an illness, so they might have cancer and they were getting a routine follow up, or they had colon polyps. They were supposed to get another follow up in 3 years or 5 years. And a lot of people during COVID skipped those follow up tests. Or prostate cancer is another one. A lot of people were getting routine follow ups and they skipped that. And some of them still haven't gotten back into the follow up on that. There's a fear that some of those people, their cancer might have gotten a lot worse because they stopped the cadence that they were being checked.
So, I just want to make sure for our listeners, since we brought this up, how often should people be screened for some of the different health challenges that you just mentioned, especially like with colon cancer? How often, and what age range?
Go ahead, Jeff. I'll let you answer.
I think we might have lost him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we might have lost him.
Yeah. So this is the deal. So it used to be 50 years old was the time we started screening for both prostate and colon cancer. What they found was that as we started doing this universally, screening people at 50 for colon cancer, they found a lot of them have more polyps than we expected. And so they said, we really should be screening this early there. So they moved it to 45 now. So about 3 or 4 years ago now, they made that recommendation. Maybe that long ago, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, they made a recommendation about changing the screening age now from 50 to 45 for colon cancer. So a colonoscopy is a preferred way to do it. If you can't do it that way, there's Cologuard. You can do it that way. The thing about Cologuard is that it's Cologuard, for those who've seen the commercials, where you basically poop in a bucket is the best way to describe it. And they're looking for abnormal cells and looking for blood in your stool. That test is not quite as sensitive as the colonoscopy, and it has to be done every 3 years as opposed to a colonoscopy. If you do a colonoscopy and someone has no polyps, then they're good for 10 years. Now, the polyps are precancerous. So if you don't have any polyps, you're probably pretty good. It takes about 10 years for a polyp to turn into a cancer. So if you don't have any polyps, you're good for 10 years. If you do have a polyp, depending on how it looks or how many they are, they might have you follow up again in 5 years. They might have you follow up again in 3 years, if it really looks suspicious. The Affordable Care Act mandates that insurance companies cover those screening tests. So right now, the Affordable Care Act is still. I'm praying that Congress doesn't go in there and mess things up, and repeal the Affordable Care Act, because a colonoscopy is not a cheap test. So right now, you don't get billed for it. You don't get billed for it. But if something happens that they repeal the Affordable Care Act, then they're probably going to be getting billed for colonoscopies, which is going to be another huge obstacle for people. So every 10 years for colonoscopy, beginning at age 45, and for prostate cancer, It starts at age 50 or 45 if you're high risk. If you're African American, that's considered to be higher risk. So we should be getting screened at 45, and then every year after that with the PSA blood test and or the rectal exam.
So those are really good things. Like, give the gift of life to yourself at the end of this year. I know that a lot of times when I'm trying to get in to see certain physicians, they say at the end of the year, everybody's trying to get in. I don't know if it's insurance related or people just feel like, okay, this is another thing at the end of the year. I don't need to check it off now.
Probably both. It's probably both. And it makes sense too because a lot of people have a deductible for the year, and if you don't hit your deductible by the end of the year, it resets in January. So let's say you have a $5,000 deductible, you have $5,000 in charges because you had some procedure done. Well, anything after that's going to be covered by your insurance, but then that resets in January. So I try to tell people, if you hit your deductible for the year, get whatever you need. You need a sleep study, let's get the sleep study. You need, something else, let's get it now while you hit your deductible because you won't get charged anything more for that if you hit your deductible for the period. You get it after January, it resets. You know what? I actually failed to mention screening tests for women. Okay,
I was going to get to you on that. Yes.
Yeah. So things have had to change with the cadence for Pap smear. So it used to be that women would get a Pap smear every year. We know that women who've had normal Pap smears are more likely to continue to have normal ones. It's the ones that have abnormal Pap smears are the ones that go on to cause cervical cancer. So at first they made a change and said, okay, if someone's over 30 and they've had, then their risk is relatively low. We can actually do that Pap smear every 3 years. So that went into effect first. Now we're able to screen for a virus called HPV, human papilloma virus. Most women, almost all women who have cervical cancer, have that virus, the HPV virus. And so now that we're able to screen for it easily, what we're doing now is when you get your Pap smear, we'll also check for that HPV virus. If you don't have the virus and you've had all normal Pap smears and you're over 30, then we can go every 5 years for your Pap smear. So a lot of women are happy to hear that. They don't have to do them every year. Every 5 years for people who are at the lowest risk. And so now we say women over 30 because if you're under 30, we know a lot of women will have the HPV virus and spontaneously their body will realize, oh, I got this viral infection, and they'll clear it on their own without having to do colposcopies and frequent checks and things like that. So we don't even start screening for that until after 30 because the incidence is so high before 30. And if you do have it before 30, it's probably going to go away on its own. Mammograms, people can kind of go argue about, what's the optimum age, but usually 40 is the age you start doing mammograms, unless you got a family history. And this goes to any of these. If you got a strong family history, especially people who had it at a young age, either have breast cancer at a young age, colon cancer, prostate cancer at a young age, we're going to start screening earlier. But generally, mammograms are starting at 40, and it's data seems to suggest that every 2 years is fine. So you don't need to necessarily have it every year if you're low risk or average risk for breast cancer.
One thing I wanted to mention, and I'm kind of jumping away from our subject today, but I think it's really important, especially I know like with men that are suffering with some challenges with their prostate. And what about, can you speak to when those numbers, like you go to the doctor and your doctor might say, well, your numbers are a little bit different and you need to come back in 3 months. What does that mean?
Well, it can mean anything. It can mean that sometimes if someone has an unexpected lab finding, usually the first thing I'll do is I'll repeat it because sometimes it may just be.
Okay, sounds like.
Sometimes following something like, for instance, someone's prostate level is mildly elevated, the PSA is mildly elevated. You want to see, repeat again maybe in 3 months to see, has it changed a lot? If it's changed a lot, that might mean the prostate is continuing to grow and it's a cancer and it needs to be taken care of more aggressively. If if it's elevated but it hasn't changed a whole lot in 3 months, that means it's probably stable, and we can continue to watch it. So, yeah, sometimes it'll be repeated because we're kind of following what's called expected management of that condition.
Okay.
Sometimes just means that you're just due for that test to be done again. Like we talk about, if you have a polyp, we kind of routinely will do that. Do another follow-up in 5 years. Just because we're kind of hedging our bet. Like I said, it takes about 10 years for a polyp to turn into a cancer. So they're kind of hedging their bet. Well, maybe you got an early one that we didn't catch when we did that colonoscopy. And so if we do it in 5 years, we're going to get ahead of the curve instead of waiting 10 years. And maybe now you had something that's gotten and progressed to something worse.
Yeah. Want to welcome Dr. Whittle back on the line. I know we've had some technology challenges, but we have him back on the line as well. And so, Dr. Whittle, we were talking about research with the All of Us research program, and some of the different projects that have been going on related to our topic today, and that's holiday blues, those people that are depressed or have challenges coping. So I want to make sure, Dr. Whittle, did you have anything more to add with that? Because we kind of lost you earlier.
Sure. Sorry about that. Yeah, not sure what happened. But anyway, I was sort of in the midst of commenting that one of the things that we noticed here was that when we worked with members of the community and scientists working together, the questions that were coming up in terms of what's important to research were significantly different than what came up if scientists were talking amongst themselves about what looks important. And I think that that's an important observation that all of us has recognized nationally. And if people are interested in saying, well, how can I ever study this condition that affects my family? One of the things that they can do is they can go to All of Us research program. So if you go to just Google All of Us research or workbench, then there's a chance to see the studies that are going on, and you can actually make comments on studies or ask for reviews of the study to say, well, why aren't they looking at this? So I think that kind of engagement with the research community is something that all of us really wants the community to do, and it doesn't have to be only people who signed up to be part of the study. So this is something where people from the broader community can have input. And of course, if it's difficult to navigate through that computer system, we're always happy to have people call in with ideas to the Medical College of Wisconsin's branch of All of Us, and Karen shares that number and email pretty
most
regularly.
Definitely. The number is 414-955-2689, 414-955-2689. You can definitely call us if you have any challenges or questions. Dr. Whittle, you mentioned about the researcher's workbench, and that's exactly what it is. It's it shows exactly what researchers are working on, but it also kind of mentions some of the results as well, Dr. Whittle.
That's correct, or at least it'll mention highlights, so that if you go to the researcher workbench, there's a section where basically you go and look and find all the studies that are being done. And right now it's thousands. And then you can say, well, for example, I was just looking while we were in here, well, how many are being done by the institutions in Wisconsin? And it turns out that there's being done by a number of universities. Almost 50 studies are being done by people at the medical college. 7 are at Marquette, or 9 I think are at Marquette. The UW system between Milwaukee and La Crosse and Madison have over 100. And so I think that those different research institutions here locally, you can sort of look at what they are doing. So I think it's a pretty interesting thing to look around, and you can find who's working on projects that you're interested in. I think that the workbench is also, you can get a sense of who has signed up. So you can click on the data that is out there already.
Okay, and it seems like we have just lost him again. But what it allows for you to do too, when you're looking at the researcher's workbench, you can say like, what type of research is related to African Americans suffering with diabetes or with cancer in certain areas, and you can see different research that's related in those topic areas as well. So that really
Hey, Karen,
helps.
let me ask a question. So I know that there's been some changes with the app, and maybe I have to ask Jeff this question. I don't know if you know the answer to this. So, do you know when the new app is going to be up and running, and are people able to access their data that they've already given, either through online or how can they access things now?
That's a wonderful question because, yes, the app is back. They're still trying to add more to it. So, people that are currently participants in the program, they can go to joinallofus.org and then they would have to put in a new password. Um, and then they can then go into their information. There's some information that people received, emails or texts, information from all of us indicating like their ancestor information. If they still wanted to get that, they would have to download that and save it at this time. But there's some other health related surveys and things of that nature that are still there. So we just encourage people that if you have questions and you want to know more about trying to get back in, you can give us a call at 414-955-2689, 414-955-2689. And Dr. Whittle, we do have you back on. And
Yep.
I was just, working on trying to finish up what you were talking about related to the researchers workbench and how people can go on there, and if they have topics that really affect people of color, African American, Latino, they can plug that information in and see what types of research is being done as it relates to them.
That's correct.
Okay. It looks like we're going to get ready to take a break. We'll be back on the other side. We just ask that, if you have questions, I know Dr. Kevin Izzard is going to be jumping off the line. Dr. Kevin Izzard, we appreciate you being with us this last Friday before the holiday season for the
That's right.
for being at the table. So have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. And we're going to be back with Dr. Jeff Whittle to have more discussion about research and the importance of it and some of the things that he have noticed with his patients as well, because he's been practicing close to, I guess, about 40 years now, Dr. Whittle, right?
Yeah, it sounds like it's a pretty old guy. It's actually 40 years, but I guess so.
It's getting there. So we want to welcome you to joining us at the table this morning. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back, and you can always feel free to give us a call.
The holidays, and holiday trips, and holiday toys, and holiday bonding. And it all comes together in a Chevrolet.
Find your red tag. Get 1.9% financing on all 2024 Silverado 1500 pickups. Plus, get $3,750 total value on this Silverado when you trade in an eligible vehicle. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
The passing of a loved one is emotional enough without adding the stress of funeral arrangements. By pre-planning, you receive the desires of your heart while taking away the burden from your family. It also saves you money, providing the dignity and respect your memory deserves. And there are times when life ends unexpectedly. Please know that the New Pitts Mortuary is here to lend a helping, caring hand anytime, day or night. We are the New Pitts Mortuary.
It's like a diamond ring, it's a precious thing. And we never want to lose it. It's like a favorite song that we love to sing. Every time we hear the music, and we're in this love together. We got the kind that lasts forever.
I want to welcome everybody this morning to sitting at the table with us. This is Karen Dotson from the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin. Previously, we had Dr. Kevin Izzard on. He is also co-investigator for the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin and a family practice physician. Currently, we have Dr. Jeff Whittle on the line with us, and he actually has been involved with the All of Us Research Program from the very beginning. And we've been talking today about holiday blues and some of the challenges that people were having. And Dr. Whittle was talking about some of the research that's currently going on. So we want to welcome you back, Dr. Whittle. I know we've been having some technology challenges, but welcome back.
Yeah, and it looks like I'm hearing your voice without any crackles in it, so hopefully that means it's a good line.
All right. And so if people do have questions and they want to talk to us, feel free to call us at 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. Dr. Whittle, we were talking about some of the challenges that people are facing during this holiday season. And we also mentioned as far as the length of time that you've been practicing and seeing patients. And can you kind of give us an idea of what you notice around this time of year? What have been some of your recommendations for your patients?
Well, so in terms of diseases, conditions that tend to act up during the holidays, I think one of the things I notice is that family members tend to see members of the family they haven't seen for a while. And so they will notice things, particularly around functional ability. They notice that they forget things that they say, "Holy cow, Grandma or Uncle Fred is just not doing as well as they were the last time we saw them." And that happens both at Thanksgiving and at Christmas. And those things allow them to recognize, boy, this is something that ought to be addressed. And then they can come in and be seen for those chronic problems, but which are newly being recognized by family members. And so, again, it speaks to the importance of family support when they see things like that happening. It is clearly, as I think probably came up when Kevin was talking, the people who are under stress or who have depression, the holidays can be a difficult time because everybody seems to be happy. I think, if anything, social media has made that worse. Because I would never post something where I'm in the blues and I'm all by myself, but when my family's all there and we're having something fun, then maybe something would go up, and so people get the impression that life is always good for everybody else, and then they know that they're not feeling that happy, and so it can exacerbate depression, and we do see a slight bump in even suicidal attempts during that period of time. So I think that it's probably an important time to check in on your friends and let them know that you do care about them. So those would be the things that I think of that I see the most during the holidays. The things that are, I'm going to say, consequences of difficult behaviors. So people are eating more sweets. They're not attending to their diet as much. Usually those are problems that don't happen immediately when you eat poorly. So if you are eating poorly, you don't suddenly come in having a heart attack because you had a donut. But the more donuts you eat at Christmas, the more likely you are to have a heart attack the rest of the year. So it's a time when people sometimes will let down their guard and say, "Well, it's the holidays, so I can stop worrying about it." And then they come back and found they regained in 5 days the 5 pounds they worked 5 months to lose. So it can be a difficult time to stick to your patterns, and so I think that there's some changes that happen then, but that doesn't lead to them coming to see me. But it is a patient behavior that I wish I could help them intervene on.
a lot of times too, we were talking about this earlier with Dr. Izzard, that people have a tendency to feel like they can numb their feelings with alcohol, and that's not the case. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, and so if it came up with Kevin, he may have mentioned that alcohol, although you think of it as something that people use to celebrate, it's actually a depressant. It makes your brain not work quite as well. And in the case of your inhibitions, where you kind of have a constant voice telling you, you probably shouldn't do that, it lets you go ahead and do things you might not do, which can be pretty nice if you usually refuse to sing, and then at Christmas time you're willing to sing Christmas carols
I
after
don't know
you've
if
had
that's a good
an
thing if you
eggnog.
don't have a voice, Dr. Whittle.
Yeah. Are you referring to the times you've heard me sing? Is that what the point is?
I'm not.
Yeah, my wife will kind of kick me a little bit at church. Shut up. But anyway, but it does. It's in general that kind of ability to be more socially outgoing than you would be ordinarily is a reason why people, I think, generally find benefit with alcohol use. But on the other hand, people who are very anxious and people who have issues around anxiety disorders and working at the VA, I think of PTSD, which is an anxiety problem, and alcohol makes, in the short term, those problems seem less important. You are able to ignore them a little bit better because it does depress the way you think. On the other hand, many of these conditions come with depression, and alcohol pushes that depression further. And so it doesn't make depressed people happy. It may make them less willing or less or more able to pretend they're happy. But it is not a treatment for depression. And in fact, that little bit of impairment of inhibitions may also be something that would push people past the line where they no longer feel inhibited from attempting to take their own life. So it is really a drug that we do find benefits using in small amounts. Drug, not we as in the medical clinician, although people will sometimes talk about, oh, red wine is good for you, or another time it was dark beer is good for you, and I think I've heard certain of the spirits are good for you. None of that has ever held up when people have looked at it. So there is no medical indication to drink, basically. That said, socially, it does help some people function. People enjoy drinking alcohol, and I think in moderation, it's a pretty safe habit. But for 10% of the population, there is not a moderate dose that's appropriate, because it does, once the inhibition is down, the ability or the willingness to drink too much comes up. And so there are folks who've had problems with alcohol in the past, but no, they shouldn't be drinking. And I think that a good host or a good family member and friend will realize that this is not something where I encourage them that, well, it's just this time of year, it's only at Christmas, it's only at New Year's. That just does not work for a large number of our friends and neighbors. And so I think that really respecting the preference not to drink is a really important one, just as it's really important not to push people who have problems with diabetes or weight that say, well, it's only this one time of the year. That's just not a great way to help them with their issues. They can self-regulate. Most of these folks are grown-ups, and I would say that you can help them better by making sure there's a variety of options available. And if you can make a really fancy fruit, you're buying mangoes or some other, I guess that's not that exotic anymore, but when I was a kid, that would have been a huge thing. But this idea of having some unusual and festive treats that are on the healthy side, I think is a great idea that some people are really good at doing. And if you're one of those folks who likes to host and that's not in your repertoire right now, it'd be a challenge for you to come up with a way to make a really healthy but also delicious dessert type food.
Dr. Whittle, this is really piggybacking on like 2 weeks ago when we had Dr. Gear with us, along with Deb Nevels, and they were talking about healthy eating, and she's a nutritionist, Dr. Gear is, and she was just mentioning, it was really interesting because she had some great ideas as far as, like, she even mentioned a fruit pizza, and people were calling me later saying, I never heard of that before. I don't know if I want to try it or not. But she was really making a statement as far as, like, making sure we have some fresh vegetables there at the table, fresh fruit, even though we have some of those other items that we know, like the mac and cheese, the candied yams,
Yep.
All those different things that we eat that are, most of the time around this time of year, have some other choices as well. And she really made me start thinking, Dr. Whittle, like, okay, making sure that I do have that salad there, even though we might have the mac and cheese as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the more you can empower family members to make good choices if they want to, then I think the better a host or hostess you can be. I think that there are a lot of, and I'm not a nutritionist and certainly not a chef, but there are a lot of pretty tasty things that are made with healthy foods. Another trick that I'm sure most people have heard of is that you want to make sure that you're eating some of those healthy foods early on, so that you're a little bit full of those. And when you get to the cheesecake, you're not going to have as many cheesecakes as you would have otherwise.
So in other words, it's better to have that salad or have those green beans or, some of the vegetables ahead of time before we start eating some of the other items as well.
Yep. Early on in the conversation, that's right. And actually, I'm a big fan, as I think Karen, of nuts, and they are a holiday food. And I think that for most people nowadays, probably the weight gain is a bigger issue than sodium intake, although salt is certainly a problem for many people. And the nuts, although they are high calorie foods, because they're all healthy fats and protein and very, very little carbs, and almost all the carbs that are in nuts are fiber, and so they don't add to your calorie count. The nuts are a really healthy thing that people can eat that will keep them from putting on being hungry later on, because they stick to your ribs a lot more than eating a few cucumber slices or some of the fruits and vegetables things. So I'm a fan of nuts on top of the fruits and vegetables.
Dr. Whittle, when you mention nuts, give us an idea of which nuts you really feel are the ones that we should consider more than others.
Yeah. So the people who, and it's not incredibly well studied, but the people who make almonds and walnuts have invested a fair amount of money in research and have really been good at showing that when you eat those, that it tends to improve your cholesterol panel. It kind of raises your good cholesterol and drops your bad cholesterol a little bit. But peanut butter, peanuts, which are kind of the nut of choice for me, certainly growing up, that was really all we had except for at Christmas. Are actually also a pretty healthy food too. They're a lot of protein, a lot of fat, relatively little in the way of carbohydrates, and they're available in obviously a lot of different ways. I like natural peanut butter, but even the peanut butter that's sold by the big companies that has sugar added to it, it's a modest amount of sugar compared to the amount of calories that come from the healthy oil and the protein that's in nuts, even peanuts. I guess the data is best, the studies are best with almonds and walnuts, but I keep pecans in my refrigerator. I find them tasty. They are just as good if you look at the labels in terms of having relatively little carbohydrates, a lot of fiber for the carbs that is there, and then the calories are coming from a healthy fat and protein. So again, all of those categories work well. I've seen less data on some of the more, the pistachios and Brazil nuts and cashews, just because I don't look at those as often. But again, when I have looked at them, pretty high in fat, pretty high in protein, low in carbohydrates, and the fat is healthy fat. So I don't have a strong preference, but the data is best for almonds and walnuts.
So, Dr. Whittle, you mentioned something when I was just hearing you speak on pecans, and you mentioned you put them in the refrigerator. Is it because you want to keep them fresh, or is that the way they should be stored? Or I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, I like to keep them fresh. I only do that once I open them, and I'm kind of cheap, so I buy fairly large bags, and so nothing to do with them being healthy or anything like that. And they stay pretty well on the shelf.
Okay, great. We have a caller on the line, Dr. Whittle. So we want to welcome the caller to sitting at the table with us this morning. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you, dear sweetheart. I'm still sipping on my papaya here, but I needed to come back to see if you wanted the remainder of your eggs there. And back for a second portion. But anyway, Karen, thank you. and Milwaukee, Carvey, ride out. Dr. Tyrone W. speaking. Glad to, and I hope Dr. Kevin is still listening to this too, because I just wanted to say, well, that organic peanut butter is not as I enjoy that more than the store bought stuff too, because when I was living out west, oh man, I was doing most of that stuff there. I was doing goat milk, organic peanut butter. I got away from jellies, and I was doing a lot of jams and preserves, and still do. So I really don't too much care for jelly, but I'm a jam preserve type of fella there. But not too much on foods this time around. Maybe next time. But anyway, I just wanted to say, the things you were talking about as far as magazines, books, community papers. Those things will take you anywhere you want to go once you start reading. I love to read. Put the music on, turn the TV on, the computer. Give your eyes a break, because I notice I don't watch too much television because, that radiation or whatever's coming through the screen there affects your eyes after hours and hours after time being on there. Get some of the scented candles, put the music on, whether it's the radio, the, turntables or whatever. I love the scented candles there. They can give your nose a treat, a special treat, cinnamon, lavender, lemon. You go in each room, the whole room will smell like lemon or cinnamon, lavender. Give your nose a treat. Get yourself some scented candles there and just turn close your eyes there and just let the aromas give your nose and your palate a special treat then. So Merry Christmas. I just wanted to share that. And thank you. Best wishes for the new year. Thank you.
I like that. Thank you for calling in when you mentioned about the candles, because that really does set the tone sometimes for us when we have the different scents that we can smell and during that time of year. So thank you for calling in and mentioning that as well. Dr. Whittle, I just want to kind of go back to what Dr. Kevin Izzard was talking about as far as some of the changes that were happening with the All of Us research program. And he mentioned as far as can people now log in? And I mentioned, yes, they can log in. They would have to do a new login ID password. I should say their ID is the same, but their password would be different. But they can still then join in and see exactly what's really happening in that area. As far as what's going on with their research, there might be different questionnaires and surveys that people can complete if you haven't. People that are having challenges, feel free to call our office at 414-955-2689. That's 414-955-2689. Dr. Whittle, it's been some year for the All of Us research program. We've had some really good highs, and we really have been out in our community, just letting people know the importance of research. One thing that I love about you, Dr. Whittle, is that you always are pushing us a little bit more as far as getting out in the community, having some groups and church events where we can also have health-related topics along with people learning more about research. Can you speak to that, Dr. Whittle?
Sure. I think that, although I've, as you kindly pointed out, I've been in practice for many, many years, this is really probably the most exciting time for research, for science and medical science in particular, since I've been. For me, it was incredibly exciting when I first started out in medicine, but the pace of change has only accelerated, and I think that learning how some of these new types of research are going to affect both how you maintain your health and how you detect and treat disease are going to evolve. And so understanding how the body's own machinery affects why some people respond differently to drugs than others, that's going to be something that your doctor, I think, will be using to help choose the medication they prescribe within 5 years. I tell my patients now, and actually at the VA, we do order routinely genomic testing to help with certain drug choices. I think that's the case for most health systems now for specific drugs. I think that the ability to tailor our screening for cancers to the person's genetic risk is something that is not up to date today, but will be up to date. I'm quite confident before 5 years are out. And in the case of end-stage renal disease, kidney disease, which really is much more prevalent in the African American community than either the Hispanic or the white or Asian communities, really the understanding that there are genetic predictors of people who have particular risk is going to be entering practice again relatively early. It's not something that you can change one's genes, but it certainly would help in terms of recognizing people who really do need to buckle down on their blood pressure because of their higher risk of kidney disease. And I think for a lot of conditions, people who are prone towards developing liver problems when they are overweight, people who are prone towards diabetes, although we get a fair amount of information from family history. So if your mom and dad had diabetes, your risk is very, very high. Genetics will help with that. And I'm very hopeful that we will really be able to give people much better genetic information over the period of time. And we're happy to come out and talk a little bit about where that is, get questions from people. I think that it is still the case that although all of us has made progress, most of the genomic research is really looking at the European heritage population. And I think the End-Stage Renal Disease Association that has a gene that basically only occurs in folks who came from West and Central Africa, where sleeping sickness led to the evolution of that gene, much the same way that malaria led to the evolution of the sickle cell gene. And that just was not discovered nearly as soon as it should have been, because almost all genomic research is being done in white people. And I think that this is an example where really first, it'll help us to identify people at risk. And the next thing will be is, now that we know the genes involved, people will be able to develop interventions that are really tailored to people with that particular risk factor. And again, this is not going to happen probably this year, but probably using screening tests, genetic screening tests will probably happen, I'm convinced, within 5 years. And there will probably be new treatments within 10 years. And that's a long time away, but it does take a fair amount of time for health research to go through the system, especially since you wouldn't want to disseminate something widely until you've tested it on a large number of people. And something like kidney failure develops over many, many years. And so they can't be a 6-month study like we had with COVID. It's going to have to be a 5 or 10 year study. And that holds up when things get out into the community.
And that's really key, Dr. Whittle. What you mentioned is that, and that's one of the reasons why we're on this radio show, actually, is to encourage our community to be involved in research and to encourage them, because, we want to make sure that our numbers are counted when we have researchers looking at the data. We want to make sure that we're in there, because researchers are looking at that data to make decisions about our health, about our medications. And so that's so important for us to make sure that happens. Dr. Whittle, we're getting close to the end of our day, being on, I should say, the end of our 2 hours of being on the radio for At the Table. But I wanted to, before closing, just to get some closing remarks from you, I should say, related to the holiday season and what you feel is most important that people need to consider during this time of the year.
So I think that reaching out to your friends and neighbors, and I think that especially people that you know the best, because you're going to have the most influence with them, but be nice to that lady in the grocery store, even though she's been checking you out for a long time and you don't actually even know her name. Make sure you give her a smile, and we'll all be happier if we're all more positive.
And that's kind of like what Dr. Iser was talking about before now, that we need to just love on each other and just give a smile and be happy. And sometimes it is hard to do that, but we just need to be mindful of others as we go through this holiday season. I'm going to just mention to people that this is Karen Dotson from the All of Us Research Program. I have Dr. Jeff Whittle with me, co-investigator for the All of Us Research Program, internal medicine physician. We're getting ready to close, and I just want to tell everybody that I'm just hoping you have a healthy, safe holiday season. We probably will not be talking to you until January. We'll be back the first week of January to have more discussion about your health. And at that time, I want to also hear from the community. So I want you to take note. And I want to hear from you as far as what would you like for us to have conversation about this coming year. We've had some wonderful topics this last year, and I want to hear from you. So put that on your calendars that we'll see you the first Friday of January at the table from 7 to 9 o'clock. Everybody take care.